we'll pick up and let you start recording on your end if there's a problem or an issue with something.
Okay.
But welcome to week 4. My wife always she'll say, "What week is this?" And I'll tell her. She says, "I can't believe it." She says, "It feels like you just got started," and we kind of sort of did. But anyway, but great news. For those of you that had not joined us, Stacy just has been announced. It's public knowledge now. Has just gotten an assistant principalship at an elementary school. So we're proud of that. Mandy said that some things are working out for her. It's just a weight game. Julie, be encouraged. You and I have had conversations. Be encouraged. It is a weight game, and all of you be encouraged just from this news. I don't know where all of you are with what you are looking for, or if it's something that you want now, you need to go ahead and put your name out there to be in the pool for things, because this is the time where decisions are going to be made. And they will be making these decisions all the way up until when school starts. There's a lot of shifting that can happen at the last minute. So don't count out the fact that you're, and honestly, my first principalship came about 4 weeks after school started that year. And my bubble had been burst, because I felt for sure I was going to be at a certain place, and I had been kind of groomed for that. But after I got over it and I was sent to where I was sent, and I looked back on it a few years later, it was not meant to be. That would not have been the best thing for my career path. I couldn't see it then, but I could see it down the road. And so the weight game was well worth it for me, because from that point on, it was just one promotion right after the other. Had I stayed where I was, I don't know that could have happened that way. So, and I can look back and I can see all of that now. So I'm telling you, don't any of you give up. Let me go ahead and get my preaching over with. I don't know if it's you're tired, or if you're just not pink, but with our activity this week, with the Johari window, I had a lot of great assignments turned in, but I had some that were mediocre, and it just was not the caliber that I felt like of some of you. I just felt like you threw it together, and I was not pleased with it. And that's why I'm saying you cannot give up. You've got to just to give me your best all the way to the end. And I'm going to tell you why. Gardner Webb can be your best advocate, or they can become your stumbling block. Because I had a principal to call me, an assistant principal to call me yesterday on a former student of mine that I had probably 6 years ago. 6 years ago, from Gardner Webb, and had applied for a position. And they asked me, they said, "Do you know this person?" I said, "Yes." "How did you know them?" And I told them how I knew them, and everything. But based on what I said, based on what he told me, based on what I said, I think was going to determine whether that person got the job or not. So, I get calls all the time. Dr. Lamb gets calls all the time. Dr. Revis gets calls all the time, or we'll get references. And I'm asking you, I'm speaking from my heart now, please, because I care for all of you, please don't make me have to say, well, you know, I probably wouldn't hire this person and why. So don't put me in that position because I I I would do you a disservice if, well, first of all, I'm not going to tell an untruth. Secondly, I would eventually it would do you a disservice, but I'm not going to do that school and that school system a disservice. Is that a fair comment? So I'm just asking you, don't put me in that situation. Okay? And I'm asking you, um, and again, I'm not going to point anybody out. People, you know who I'm talking to, some of you. Please, please, please get your acts together. Okay? Now, I've said all that, and we're going to move on. Fair enough? Okay. Um, let's look at your well, was there any other good news that we may have missed from anybody at this point before we do move on? We want to share that good news. How many of you, just raise your hand, how many of you have applied for assistant principal in the assistant principal pool? How many of you have done that already? Okay. How many of you are planning to do it? Okay. How many of you are just going to wait on it for a while? Okay. Okay. Now I've got to ask you why.
For me personally, I am moving into a curriculum instructor position.
Okay. Okay.
So I want to get kind of comfortable with
Okay.
that level of leadership before I move in.
And that's okay. And Renee, you've already told me your reason. So,
Yes, sir.
I'm okay. That's okay. Mayra, why would you wait?
Well, honestly, the only school I want to become an AP is my school, and my principal isn't retiring for another year or so. So I'm kind of going to sit out and wait it out. But I really, I love my school. It's a great school. My current role, I'm happy with it. So I think I'm
Okay.
just gonna
Okay. But now
sit and
let
wait.
me ask you this question, Mayra. What if that opportunity would not happen at your school? Would you limit yourself to that? Yeah, if you
So,
see that that's not going to happen?
without getting too personal, I don't know
Okay.
how much longer I'd stay in it in education. I've
Okay.
honestly considered other options.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's
Gotcha. That's okay.
part
That's
of it.
okay. Thank you for sharing that, though.
You're
Douglas,
welcome.
what about you? What's holding you back?
I've already committed to coaching this year, so I'll make a
Okay.
decision.
And I've had a lot of coaches to that, but is there going to come a time where you're going to say, okay, I'm going to I'm going to I'm going to step back from coaching so that I can go ahead and move forward with with this part of my career? Are you going to make that decision at some point, you think?
Yeah, I've already made that decision. I just gotta finish out this next year.
Okay, got you. And that's fair. I understand that. Just don't let it wait too long, okay? Okay, who's another person? Paulette, what are you waiting on? Did you raise your hand?
No, sir, I'm already in an administrative role, director of special ed for the charter school. So,
So
um,
you want to stay in that kind of leadership role and not the principalship role?
correct,
Is that what you're saying? Okay. So you're
correct.
just getting credentialed in this area is what you're doing.
Yeah,
Okay, pretty much. And
I'm
then
a lifelong learner.
it can open up some doors later on. Who have I missed? Malika?
Um, I'm just being honest. I've been overwhelmed with just trying to work and school, and I just don't feel like I'm in the headspace to even
Okay.
give the interview process my all. I wanted to be
Okay.
done with this first.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Mhm.
I appreciate you sharing that. Daryl, what does it look like in Cumberland County?
Well, I actually just moved to Virginia,
Oh,
so
okay. I didn't know
yeah.
that.
No, it's that happened just I think what 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So right now, yeah. So what I'm gonna be doing, I have to take the praxis here, but everything else is honored here. So it's just getting signed up for the praxis, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's basically reacclimating yourself there.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're calling it a professional pause. That's
Okay.
the positive way, a professional pause. So we'll see what happens. So right now I've
Okay.
accepted position in the classroom.
Okay. And I understand that. Dina, what does it look like you moving in the future in the principalship now that you're already an assistant principal?
I'm going to work again this year as an assistant principal. I feel like there's still a lot for me to learn. I was accepted into the NC Papa, so it's like a fast track. So I'm hoping to gain more knowledge by attending those conferences and workshops. And I also have some conferences that I will be going back to Nashville again this year to do the NACE conference. So just gaining more experience as far as speaking in front of an audience and just really learning the job and the role. And I'm going to be honest, I want to wait for the right opportunity and the right school to become a principal in. I'm not just going to jump at any opportunity. I am in a really good place. I have an amazing administrator. We work very well together. So for me, that's a lot to give up. Will I look for a principalship? Oh, absolutely. But it just may be within the next year or two.
Right. And again, I will say, and I respect that. Don't always think that, I've done this a year, I've done this 2 years, and I'm ready for it. Sometimes, you can jump into it too soon. You don't have to stay as long as I was an assistant principal. I was an assistant principal for 8 years before I went into the principalship. And I told you before, 2 of those years, it was 2 different administrators. The first 2 years, I learned all the things that I shouldn't do as a principal. But then the next 6 years, everybody called her Ma Revels. Ma Revels taught me everything I needed to know and more. And she has dementia now and doesn't even know who I am, which is sad. But she became like another mother to me, and nurtured me and just everything. So it's okay. But thank y'all for being Did I miss anybody? Other than some that have talked with me personally already. But thank y'all for sharing that with me. Those are need to know things as I'm finishing up this journey with you. Let's talk about, under week 4 in Blackboard, you will find your agenda. But we've talked about, okay, let's just talk about assignment 3 for just a few minutes. I've looked at all of you. I'm going to just go around, and we don't have a lot of time, but I want you to say, I'm going to start with the frames up there. I'm going to start with Stacy. Stacy, as you did a reflection on the Johari window, just in a sentence or two, what did you learn about Stacy from this?
I thought it was interesting to see some of my friends and colleagues' reactions when they filled out the form, the things that they say about me that I don't necessarily know about myself. I thought that was really interesting. So I know that I'm energetic, but there were a few other things that they marked, like trustworthy, which made me feel good and feel like, okay, that's something that I've got. Something else that I've got under my belt. I don't know. That was just my favorite part of the process.
But using this as a springboard, and did all of you see how it serves as a self-reflection of who you are?
Yes,
where you
absolutely.
Are now? Okay, that's what I wanted. Daryl, give me your big takeaway from it.
Okay, okay, I'm muted. That I would piggyback off of what Stacy said. That definitely was eye-opening when people filled out the link for me. But I also just kind of also for not just for me specifically, but like with my supervisor that I worked for in Cumberland County, like she definitely had all of those behaviors. Like you don't notice it when you're talking to her, but then when I had to do all of this and reflect, I realized like she does all of those things. And I thought that was really beneficial for me to make that connection so that, moving into a leadership role, I know that I can be all of those. So that was eye-opening for me.
Okay, thank you. Dina?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Well, I actually had the opportunity, this past school year, our district offered a leadership academy. So I was accepted into the academy. So we had done not only this survey, but other surveys as well. So it was very interesting to me because when I first when I first took the survey myself and then surveyed, I think it was about 8 other people, the results were more like the way it was scored, it was more of the unknown quadrant, meaning that I knew I had characteristics that I knew about myself or descriptors I knew about myself. However, that was very blind to others. So one of the things that I've tried to do, especially this year in my role, is be more transparent. And when I went back and distributed the Johari Window questionnaire, it came up just that showing, I guess, more empathy toward others, being a good communicator, being a good listener. I feel like those are all the qualities that a good leader should have.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Dina, do you think that this is a good instrument that you could possibly do at the beginning of the year and see and do it again at the end of the year and see how you use it as a measure to see maybe how you are different?
Absolutely. That's exactly what happened. It wasn't intentional, but that's exactly what happened. And again, just in the leadership role, and for those like for Stacy and Amber and all the others who will take on a leadership role, it's really important to see where you're starting and, at the end of the year, where you are so that you can continue to grow your strengths. Not so much focusing on the weaknesses. We want to know what our weaknesses are, but we want to grow our strengths because that's what's going to make us a great leader.
Thank you for sharing that, Mandy.
Well, I thought it was really interesting because it was hard for me to choose just 6. And while the 6 that I chose that were known to myself also were definitely known to others. A lot of the people chose those, but I was really happy to see like the ones that I didn't choose that I thought, okay, I could be these as well. That they did choose them. And a lot of them said, energetic and intelligent, organized, responsive, trustworthy was a big one that a lot of them said. And the admin team I've been working closely with, every single one of them said that. So I was very pleased that they saw that in me on a regular basis. My husband and I got into a fight because he's the only one that put something negative, I will say. He said he was like, he filled down, he's like, who on the thing. And I was like, okay, well, I know who that is. He's the only person that say that. He said I was self-conscious. And I was like, I'm like, really? I'm like, do you know me? But then I thought about it and I thought, well, you know what? If he's the one person that says that, because he hears every thought in my head, like, what about this? What about that? What do you think about this? So he hears me working through all the stuff. So that was really eye-opening for me. So.
And we're human. The truth hurts sometimes, doesn't it? It does. But we need to know it. And another thing, Mandy, you said this. We all need validation, don't we? And it validated you with what with what others had said. Okay, Douglas, what's your takeaway from this?
Kind of like everybody else said, it was kind of good to see what others think. It's kind of hard to talk about yourself. So it's kind of hard for me to pick my numbers or my words, but it was good to see what others picked. And my highest one was dependable. So that made me
Right.
feel good.
Right.
Um, you know, even just some of the things that other people said, you know, after as they were talking to me after they did it, kind of made me feel good. So
Okay.
that was a good.
And
Good
it goes back to what we said about Mandy, you know, the validation. It made you, sometimes you think about it, and then when they say it, you say, well, you know, and it makes you feel better. You remember we talked about our personal efficacy back. This builds our efficacy when people confirm things, you know, about us like that. Thank you, Douglas. Julie?
I found that all the words that I put about myself is exactly what others saw in me too. So what I put out there, others see in me, um, all 5 of them. So, and then I also had my kids do it, which was really interesting because they're 9 and 13, and they saw things in me that I didn't think they would. So that was an interesting takeaway.
I'm glad you did that with your children.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, Paulette?
Julie, I also had my 20-year-old son take it. And where I thought that I was very determined, he said I was stubborn. So it's kind of, and I said, well, I just think it's my determination. And, you know, I've got to make it. So just seeing that comparison, because that's not someone at school. We've done this at school before where you sit in front of the whiteboard and everybody writes an adjective that describes you behind you. And then you get to turn around and look at it. And it's sort of like a self-reflection to see what you agree with, what you could grow on. We've done that through some leadership meetings, but also I can relate to what you said, Dr. Stedman, of um, when someone teaches you all the things you don't want to do and how you don't want to be. So in the second half of the assignment, I kind of reflected on that. So
Okay.
a good opportunity.
Right, the cognitive dissonance.
Right.
Okay, that's good. Lesson learned. Renee?
For me, I was more in the quadrant of what I didn't know about myself, but others did. So maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit on things. I don't know. Uh, One of the things that I found that was kind of refreshing was everyone who filled out the survey put me as knowledgeable. So, for me, I was like, okay, well, that's great that they think that, but it shows you that others are watching and you're influencing even when you don't think that you are.
Exactly. Good observation, Renee. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, sir.
Malika?
Okay, so I had my best friend to complete it, 2 colleagues, my ex-husband, and my 22-year-old daughter.
Your ex-husband.
Yes, my ex-husband, my 22-year-old daughter, and my 19-year-old son to do it. And it seems like more so we're all on the same page. And my ex-husband kind of made me smile because he said, he said it's hard to choose because I've seen you're so many of these things, and I've seen you display them. And you know, dealing with an ex, right? To say things to you like that, And then my daughter was like, "Oh, but I think but but more so a lot of people were saying that I was dependable, knowledgeable, able, bold, powerful. And so one of the unknowns, like a lot of people don't know that I'm very humorous, so witty, you know, it was one of the ones that said that I'm not unaware that people know this about me, but I love to laugh and joke, and that is something that a lot of people don't know about me because I look so serious all the time. And then they also said I was friendly, but I always have this serious look, so I'm happy they do see that, you know.
Well, thank you for sharing that. But now I have learned this about you from even the first semester. Anytime you send me a message, you always made me smile with your messages because of how your salutation. So, I those are positive things to me. So,
Thank you.
you've made me laugh and smile just when you would send me an email sometimes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Amber, it's your turn.
Hey,
Hey, yeah, I can kind of relate to Renee because I often kind of doubt things about myself, and I'm probably my roughest critic. I'm usually the first one to choose like a negative trait over the positive ones. So it was, very validating to see the positive responses from people and just confirming that I am being more of a servant leader, which is really important to me, which my dad really instilled in me, that you can't be a great leader if you're not willing to serve the people you're leading. So it was very validating and made me feel like I'm doing what I want to do. So
Okay, thank you. And Mary.
So I guess I kind of second what Amber says and that I'm my harshest critic. So when I was seeing some of the the words for me in the blind spot, I was like, I'm like, well, I kind of know that about myself already. I'm like, I think I wanted more insight, maybe I was looking more for those, negative traits. I like to think I'm pretty self-aware. So I think that's why I was like, okay, tell me something I don't know about myself that I can work on, that I can, improve on. But yeah, I thought it was pretty insightful, I guess, reaffirming.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And I challenge all of you. We are our worst critics many times. I challenge all of you to, shut the door, stand in front of the mirror, and look at yourself. And you say positive things to the person you see in that mirror. It's okay. You speak to yourself. You speak those positive things into your life. And you say, I am. Douglas, when you dress up and you look in that mirror, you say, look at that handsome man looking in that mirror. You say these things about yourself and you speak life into you. That's okay. We should all do those things more. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. We're going to conclude. Malika, I'm going to let you share. Was it you that told me about your
My meeting.
yeah, talk about your meeting and how you were able to connect this with your meeting.
Okay, so we had a meeting yesterday, and we had to answer wish I could find the questions. We had to answer a few questions, and we had to talk about our responses with our elbow partner. And I want to say he asked questions, our mentor asked questions like what has been the most challenging with our work this year? What did we learn? What was the most important thing we learned? And through all of our conversations, it was about working with people. So I was able to share. So he asked, like what are some things we can use that would best practices and resources that would help us work better with people. So we talked about different books, and I brought up the Johari Window because someone was talking about how she to others she may seem like she's reserved and don't want to work collaboratively, when in fact she just is. It has nothing to do with the individuals, everything to do with her. She just doesn't like working in groups. It's nothing, but it looks to other people as if she just don't want to work with them. And then that was when I brought up the Johari Window and like being aware of the behaviors you demonstrate and aware of how people perceive you. So we were able to talk in depth about, what I'm learning in my class as it relates to those 4 quadrants, and just dealing with people and understanding ourselves.
And how many of you have ever heard, thank you, Malika, how many of you ever heard this saying, perception is reality? You've heard that before, haven't you? And, this assessment, how others see you, you can be in denial after you know that this is what they see. And guess what? You'll never grow from this if you're not willing to accept it, embrace it, and say, okay, if this is what they see, what can I do to move forward and to make these changes? They're hard. It's hard to change and to come out of our comfort zones a lot of times and do that. But you will not ever be the full leader that you are intended to be if you're not willing to take this and move forward, as Dina shared, and in what she has been able to do as an assistant principal already. So, but anyway, and again, we're not going to take any more other than cognitive dissonance. Do you see how this cognitive dissonance fits into that frame of what others see and you don't see, and how if you're not willing to make those changes, it's like Paulette said, those that one administrator where she learned, like I did, this is not what I want to be, this is not what I want to do. These people really don't see that sometime unless somebody is willing to bring it to their attention. And then, if they don't accept it and try to make changes in those areas, then they're going to be stagnant and really not effective, for the rest of their career. And that's sad for teachers, it's sad for children, and it's sad for the schools and the leadership that they're a part of. But anyway, good job. Thank y'all for sharing that. And see, what you shared with me is some of what I wanted to see in the written part of it. Okay? So let's just be a little more attentive to that as we move forward. Let's talk briefly about your assignment for next week, the supervisory behavior continuum. Remembering that, again, that's going to be a reflection as well, a self-reflection as well. And some of you have gone back and you've already looked at that. Some of you have already completed the assignment, turned in a great job on it. But again, look at what the requirements are, and I want you to take it personally. I want you to look at it, and I want you to be able to reflect on it so that you can personally, leadership-wise, grow from this. And then as we look at assignment 5, which is the guide to supervision and instructional leadership, you're going to be asking there, in the opening 3 chapters of Glickman, it's going to talk about supervision and moral purpose. It's going to talk about factors that describe the schools of the present. It's going to talk about visions of effective schools. Dina, you really did a good job on that, talking about schools of the present. I really liked your comments on that. And there's other topics as well, but what you're to do is to pick one of these topics that really resonates with you based on your personal experience. And you're to briefly describe your experience and tell how it relates to the text reading. Again, give some thought to it and really put your heart into this assignment. It's only a 1-page assignment, but make that 1 page really speak to me when I read it. Okay? Okay, Mandy, you had a question?
Yes, sir. Going back to assignment 4, it says chapter 9, but it specifically says the supervisory behavior continuum, and that's in chapter 6, because chapter 9.
And you know what? Thank you. That could have been an error on my part, but if that's what it is, then everybody make that change now. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. That probably was just a typing error on my part, but thank you for bringing that to our attention. Let me make a note of that as well. And I'll go back in and try to remember to make that change in the instructions as well. Thank you.
And it is in chapter 9 too. I think it picks back up in chapter 9, so it's 6 and 9.
Okay, let's well, good. But thank you. Let's just put 6 and 9 then.
Yeah,
Okay.
9 is like the collaborative one, and then
Okay, got you. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then remember, you've got 2 more case studies to do. Those will be done just like you did the first one. Okay? So don't let anything be different from that. But then I want to share the screen because I really want us to look at assignment Let me pull this up. Okay. Where am I? Okay, I thought I had it pulled up already, but I didn't, apparently not. Okay, give me a second. I don't know what happened whenever I must have hit the wrong thing when I was signing out of something because I thought I had saved it at the bottom. Okay. I hate the sign-in stuff. It takes so long to go in and out of it. But I wanted to go ahead and make sure that there were no quick because a lot of you are moving ahead and courses. I mean, it takes an act of Congress to get to where you want to get. Okay, here we are. Let's go to, okay, assignments for grade. And let's look down the screen. Okay, assignment, the Strengths Finder assignment. Is there anybody who does not have their Strengths Finder book yet? Anybody? Everybody has it. Did you make sure that there was a sealed at the back, the sealed, so you can do your assessment on it? Okay, good. Okay, what I wanted to point out, now these 9, each student will be required to read in its entirety the text. The following includes a list of questions or prompts, etc., that must be responded to narratively by each student after completely reading the text. This is what you do by yourself before there is a Zoom meeting that I'll talk about in a minute. These responses will be turned in for an individual grade. You'll turn those in to me. I'll look at your responses. But in addition, you're going to use these responses when you do your Zoom meeting as well. But let's look at this, for instance. Now, I know you've talked about this many times in this program, you know, the differences between a leader and a manager. I want you to, what does the research have to say as you are looking at what it says from your reading in this book? Then respond. This is a quote, and you'll find every one of these. I pulled these directly verbatim from your reading. If you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. After you read, what does that mean? What does that say to you? You know, but I want some meat to it based on what you have read from this book. And you're going to talk about these things in your Zoom meeting, and that's where the scholarly discussions are going to come from. But there's 9 of these responses that you've got to deal with ahead of time. Then the textbook activity. The activity will culminate in a Socratic seminar approach with all students being required to share equally in the scholarly discussion. Included in discussion will be the responses to 1 through 9 above. The Strengths Finder activity is going to be the second thing that you do. It's going to be the second half of the text that you're going to read, and included in that are a section called Additional Resources for Connecting with and Identifying with Your Strengths as a Leader. These pages include specific information for understanding the full focus of this activity. At the end of the text, you will find a packet of information that will provide you the necessary tools for completing this activity. Please note, and you know this already, you had to purchase a new book with it. You should also share your results of this activity with your team. What did you learn about yourself? In addition, you will need to provide a one-page reflection of the assessment as a part of your final grade. You will also need to include a copy of your personal results as well. Those are the things that will come to me. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to work with your Zoom team And this is the only Zoom team activity that you're going to have. You're going to work with your Zoom team to culminate this activity in the Socratic seminar. Choose a Zoom master who will lead the activity and record and upload the video like you've done in the past, okay? Like you did with me first semester, like you did when you did your case studies this past semester. So this is what you're going to do. You will be responsible for submitting the following as your personal responses to the 9 key prompts, quotes from the textbook reading, the video link for the collaborative Socratic discussion. Whoever the Zoom master is, they'll send you that link, and you need to send me a live link as well. The Strengths Finder personal results, and then your reflection of the Strength Finder results. This Zoom activity, you need to set aside enough. This is going to be, it's not going to be a 30-minute activity. So you need to plan accordingly when you are recording this, because you know if you've got personal Zoom accounts, or if you've got a Zoom account at school or whatever, use those accounts, because you can actually record longer. If you use the one that you used with me first semester, it'll cut you off after about 40 minutes. And you would have to start over again. But anyway, you plan that accordingly. But I'm telling you all this, you need to go ahead and make the plans for this now. And you need to decide who your leader is going to be. You need to be reading and doing this work in advance, because this is going to take some time. Don't wait until the week of and think that you're going to effectively do this. This is a fun activity once you get into it. I promise you this. It's a fun activity, and you're going to learn even so much more about yourself as a result of this than you've had with any of the other assessments that you've done. Again, this is week 8. And then what we will do on week 8, we won't spend a lot of time going over it, because I will have learned something from the reading the work that you submitted, then your recording as well. But I will come back and we will do just a brief reflection on some things and some takeaways at the end. But we won't have time to do a full discussion, and there won't need to be, because you will have done this with your Zoom teams. Are there any questions about what the requirements are for this activity? It's pretty self-explained. So go ahead and somebody take the lead to get your team together. Somebody may say, you know, I don't mind being the Zoom master. You have at it. Y'all do what you feel like you need to do as a team. So any questions? And then the last, the case, and then the very last session is when Dr. Lamb meets with us. And once you have gone through that, then you will just do a reflection on the interviewing session and, how you intend to use that moving forward, or maybe how you've already used some of it, and that'll be the last activity that you have to do. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing again, and we're going to move into our PSEL Standards 3 and 4. This evening we have Stacy presenting Standard 3. We have Julie presenting Standard 4. For Standard 3, Daryl and Amanda, you will be doing the peer reviews. And for Standard 4, Dina and Stacy, you will be doing the peer reviews. And then next week, we only have one standard, and that's PSEL Standard 5. Malika, you have Standard 5. And then Douglas and Paulette, you have the peer reviews next week. So are there any questions about that? Any questions at all? Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go on mute, and everybody else, and then I'm going to turn it over to Stacy at this time. Okay.
Okay. Can everybody see it? It's set up right, isn't it? Okay. All right. So I did standard 3, a review of standard 3, and it is for equity and cultural responsiveness. So effective educational leaders strive for equity of educational opportunity and culturally responsive practices to promote each student's academic success and well-being. So what that looks like for this standards is ensuring that each student is treated fairly and respectfully in regards to their culture, their context, recognize and respect student strengths. I think that it's really important that we, recognize that what students bring to the table, for example, a dual language is a strength. It's not a hindrance. It's not something that holds them back, but a strength. Ensure that each student has equitable access to effective teachers, learning opportunities, support, develop policies that address misconduct in a fair way, confront and alter biases that you may have toward any particular group. I think that one stood out to me as well, because as humans, it's easy to have biases, or, you have had negative experiences here or there, and you have to really, as a leader, put those biases aside. Promote and prepare students to live and contribute to society, act with cultural competence and responsiveness in interactions and decision-making, and just general practice, and then address matters of equity and cultural responsiveness in all aspects of leadership. So to really sum that up, what stuck out to me was that it's very important that we value each student for their culture and heritage, that we model fair and respectful, unbiased interactions with students. We create or build systems to ensure that students have access to equal learning opportunities, meaning effective teachers, appropriate materials, or even social support if needed. And then school communities will act with moral conscience to understand students and families. So I want to talk a little bit before I dive into like strengths and weaknesses, just about what my school looks like. I have been teaching for 16 years, and I have spent all 16 years of my career in an extremely diverse school. I've always been in low socioeconomic schools, but I've also been in schools that were, high English language learners, high EC populations, just a big variety. So I think that the cultural thing is something that the cultural respect is something I've had to really learn and develop, because uniquely enough, I was homeschooled. So it's funny that I would end up in a public education setting, but I grew up in my house with the people that live there and no one else. And so over my career, I've learned a lot about cultural differences, religious differences, different traditions and heritages that kids bring, and then also the trauma that they bring as well. And so that's what makes a school unique and exciting, but also can make it, challenging at times. So GE Massey is where I currently am. We're a pre-K-5 school. We have 21 classrooms, so we're fairly small, 340 students. We are Title I, economically disadvantaged, and you'll see we're pretty diverse here. We have a high ESL population. At our school, we actually have 2 ESL teachers full-time to meet the needs of all of our students. We're located in the center of the county. There are 2 inner city schools, as you would call it, and we are one of them. But something that's super cool is that we, in 2023, were rated a 69C on the North Carolina report card, just 1 point away from that B. We worked so hard for that B. Our students worked so hard for that B. And that's kind of atypical of, that area and of town, because people have biases, and people bring, those biases to the table and say, well, because of where this school is located, these kids are not going to perform the same, or these kids, whatever, you've heard those things. And that's just not the truth. When you have hardworking teachers and hardworking students with effective leadership, all students can succeed. And I think that this is a great example of that, and something that, we're really proud of. We also became a Letterland model school last year, which was super cool. I don't know how they even found us, but we joked it was the King of England, but really from England. He is the grandson of the creator of Letterland. And he came out, he visited, and they ended up, recording, videoing, all the things. And so some of my teacher friends in the lower grades are on the website and in the training videos, which is something that was very cool. Additionally, our teacher working conditions survey in 2022 was so high that we got recognized by the state. We had a visit from Catherine Truitt and from Roy Cooper, the governor. They both came out at different times. I got to sit on a panel with Catherine Truitt, talk about politics, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. So that was epic for me. But I want to point out that we moved to a new administrator in 2023. So this last school year. So when I show you our strengths, I'm going to show you several data sets. I guess I could describe it as, because I want to show you the power of an effective leader. And I know that most of you have been teaching long enough. You've worked for multiple principals, and you know this, but to see it in numbers is very surprising even for me. So the other inner city school that we had is failing. And so they moved our amazing principal with these super high ratings to that school. And she has done amazing things in 1 year, but it has dramatically affected our school. So I'm going to dig into the strengths, but I'm going to show you a little bit about the difference between the administrators. So one of our strengths is that students are treated equitably and fairly. And I believe that this is something that our staff very much cares about. The staff who's been there for a long time, the staff who really just loves GE Massey and as a whole. You can see under old administration, it was 97.5%. Like, people believe, that we are treating our students equal. And then fast forward under new administration, and now it's 74% are agreeing or strongly agree. So while 74% is not negative, you can see the impact so that the leader has from top down when she's practicing or he is practicing equitable treatment and fair treatment of all students. That filters into the staff's perception and how the staff treats their students. And so this is still a strength of ours that I'm proud of. It. You can just see, I just wanted to point out the difference between there. And then if I go to the next one, same thing. So students are shown respect for their cultural beliefs and practices. We do have some students who, for example, cannot participate in holidays for religious reasons. And we always provide alternate things for them. So they have something fun to do, but maybe not, in the holiday party or whatever it is. So you can see that under old administration was 100%. And then it changed to 93, but that's still a really strong number and something that we, again, are proud of at GE Massey, that we are acknowledging, our students for who they are and what they bring to the table. And then programs and resources are for diverse needs. That is a strength of ours at our school. We spend a lot of our Title I money to support our diverse population. If you heard me talk anything about my class, I looped from 4th to 5th grade. So I taught the same kids 2 years in a row. I had 63 students and 22 of them were EC. I actually laughed when I met my new principal today that I'll be working for. She told me they had 35 EC kids in the entire school. And I said, well, I had 22 just in my class. So it'll definitely be a change, but they are a population with diverse needs who need to be addressed equitably and fairly. And the way we present that content, the way we teach it, the materials that we use, the teachers that we hire, all play a role in that. And so you can see that under our old administration, she was extremely passionate about it, and 100% of the teachers saw it. And then under new administration, you're looking at about 83%. Again, not terrible, but there has been a shift. And so it's made me really reflect and think about, as I move into administration, I want to be seen as someone who holds different cultures and different traditions as a high priority, and also recognizing all these students with diverse needs who are coming with trauma, or are coming with, well, I digress, but what's on my mind is we have certain students from a certain ethnic group who will not look you in the eye when they're getting fussed at. And in my house, that would seem very disrespectful, is, you need to look at me when I'm talking to you. But in their culture, it's a sign of disrespect to make eye contact. So even just little things like that, I think, are extremely important to model as administrators, and for it to flow down into teaching. Okay, so some areas for improvement. This has been the major gripe of the school year this year with new administration. Managing student conduct is not great within our school. This is connected to the cultural thing, to the equity and fairness, because what we're seeing is students who tend to get in trouble often, eventually were being supported in a negative way. And what I mean by that is that these kids were hanging out in the office instead of having consequences. These kids were laughing with the administrator instead of, and I think it's one of those things, I've dealt with this kid 500 times and I'm just blowing it off. But to teachers, we felt like, hey, we're not being supported. So I think managing student conduct is an area where it's very important that we're treating all students equal, and that we are treating all students fairly. And so to tie into that, we also need a behavior system that's a positive one to support student conduct, praising students. You guys, some of you were talking about, you liked hearing those really nice things that people had to say about you. Students feel the same way. They want to hear that same thing. And so I think it's important that we, as a GE Massey, as a school, move more toward a positive behavior system. And I have that in my action plan. But one of the things that I noticed with my administration this year is the boys in 5th grade in particular, where I was at, noticed the unfair treatment. And they would come to me as a 5th grade teacher and say, well, such and such got to do this, and he's always in trouble. Why did he get to do that? And my answer in my head is like, yeah, I was wondering that too. So I think we've got, I think that that's one area, or I know that's one area that we really have to work on, is what's fair. What's fair is fair for students, but also, taking in consideration what's the trauma that they're bringing to the table. Is the kid acting out because of something that happened at home last night? And if that's the case, then bringing that equity and fairness into it is adding that layer of emotional support, whether it's through a guidance counselor or an outside counselor. And then the last one is requiring all students to work hard. This was 100%. Now it's 87.5, which is not low by any means, but this number needs to be 100%, because this is a teacher's job every day to go in and require all students to work hard. And that's from our highest achieving student to our student who's still struggling to read in the 5th grade. I think we've all been there probably at some point, where you're like, oh, it's this kid, just, it's whatever, everybody gets to that point. It's somewhere along the line, but we can't do that, because what's equitable and what's fair is that we, require the best from all students. Now, their best might look different from someone else's, which is totally okay. But we still need to be requiring them all to work hard. And so this number needs to be 100%. No passes is what I wrote. No passes. So I found this really cool thing online from a Google site from Kentucky that had rubrics for each of the PSEL standards. And so I copied your screenshot of this one into here, because I thought that this is a really good explanation for how to go from ineffective to exemplary. A year ago, under a different administration, I would have called us exemplary all the way, but now I look at us more in developing. We did have a big teacher turnover when our admin left, and unfortunately, at the end of this school year, we are having another big teacher turnover due to admin. And so I think this definitely our school has fallen in this developing school leader. But one of the benefits I'm excited about is there's starting leader in me in our county, and I'm hoping that will address some of the things that are occurring. But to move to exemplary, I think one of the things that I saw consistently is the word community. So it's taking it, it's not just inside your school now, it's taking it out in the community, and the community recognizes that you are, honoring and identifying and meeting the needs of all types of learners routinely in the school, but also outside of the school. And that community piece is something that my old principal was amazing at, and something that I hope to take with me. So looking at an action plan, like where do we go from here based on our strengths and weaknesses within Standard 3? We need to create a conduct committee. We need to work together with teachers and admin and create a behavior matrix for staff to follow. I think that if there were a behavior matrix where we could say, okay, here's what happened, here's where they fall in the matrix, and here are the consequences that align with that action, then there's going to be no room for, or there should be no room for this kid's hanging out and literally sitting on the counter in the office, and another student noticing what's happening. I think a behavior matrix really makes it finite, and I am very black and white, and so I can appreciate that. And to add to that, I think that with a big turnover in staff, we are getting a very young staff quickly. We went from a old staff to a young staff. And also we are adding on non-licensed people very quickly. We have teachers who are licensed in or degreed in other things besides teaching. So a professional development on special populations. One of the things that I just threw in here that I thought might be really powerful is The Cycle of Poverty by Ruby Payne. If you've never read that book, I would encourage you to write it down and read it in all your free time. Totally changed my life and my view of poverty and decision-making. I have been on the board for homelessness in my community for about 8 years now. And this also helps me look at why do kids make the decisions they make? Why do they do the things they do? It's all research-based. And I think that the school could really benefit from that cycle of poverty, because it says, all right, well, in the cycle of poverty, a person will always do this if they're from whatever class, and this is the reason why. And it gives you an understanding, like I said. So that's just one of the ideas that I would throw out there for a PD, but they also, DSS offers some different things on abuse, trauma, which I think is an important special population that we know and recognize. And then the last one is a multicultural family night. We've actually talked about this several times, and I've seen this done, on Pinterest over the years. And some of you guys may have done this, but our school has never put the time or effort into it because, I think this is something that would need to be very detailed. You want to make sure that you acknowledge all races and cultures within your school. So you would have to know and research that out. And then do it in a respectful way, acknowledging all the different families and all the things they bring to the table. So a multicultural night is something that the Title I team could work toward. And for my indicators of success, I have those listed as an increase in percentage for the teacher working conditions survey. And I have to throw this out there. It's funny, when they called me for the AP position, the first thing I did was look at the teacher working conditions survey, which I would have never done before this program. it's not something I would have really even, I don't know, I guess I never really thought about it. But the first thing I did was go in and say, okay, here's some of the strengths and where are some areas that I might could fit in. And so that was really just a powerful thing that I connected to while I was thinking about this action plan. Do you guys have any questions for me or anything else that you would want to know about Standard 3?
Okay, this is your opportunity. Stacy, you have done an amazing job with this, and you've given me I've jotted down some things that I would even like to do with communities and schools as my student support specialist work in schools. You've given me some ideas to work with. I like the way that you tied in the evidence work that we've been doing all along. You tied that into your presentation, and it flowed so well. I like the fact that you mentioned Ruby Payne and the cycle of poverty. That is a dated book, but it's still so relevant. It goes back to the 80s, probably. Ruby Payne was just really, she was all over the place, during that time. But the message in that book is so relevant today. So I'm like Stacy. I encourage you, to get a copy of it and to read it. You will be amazed at how much it helps you. But great job. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, Daryl.
Stacy, I think you did a great job. Now I'm curious about your administrator that they moved. Sorry if you hear screaming, my child's saving the planet. I like that you could show that connection between the two. And I'm just really curious now to know about your administrator that left and all the wonderful things that she was doing. So I really liked that connection. And I'm going to look into that rubric too. I thought that was a really good thing to bring into the mix as well.
Mm-hmm. Good job.
Thank you. That's nerve-wracking when you're a room full of really smart people here. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Great job. Great job. Okay. We will move forward with our next presentation with Julie. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay. While Julie's transitioning, let me go ahead and say, remember, CAAP Task 3 must be cleared and submitted by Sunday of this week. So make sure that you're working on the SIAP as well. I don't know why I'm being focused.
Because I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen.
That's okay. But make sure you know what you've got to do. I will say that those of you that did not get feedback from Dr. Bullis, he didn't know this, but he thought that he would have connection when he went away on vacation. And we found out afterwards that you have to actually request services from Gardner-Webb University, and we didn't know that until after the fact. So I think we've worked through it. He should be back. This week. I think. But if not, then you just submit to me. If you're not getting the feedback from him in a timely manner, just go ahead and submit to me, and we're working through it. Okay. Okay, we're ready, Julie.
We could see your screen, Julie.
Julie, okay, there you go.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties tonight. I'm sorry.
Okay, we can see it.
Okay, all right, good. So I had Standard 4, which is curriculum, assessment, and instruction. And what is standard for? Effective educational leaders develop and support intellectually rigorous and coherent systems of curriculum, instruction, and assessment to promote each student's academic success and well-being. So what does that mean? As a principal of, as a leader of the curriculum, implement coherent systems of curriculum, instruction, and assessment that promote the mission, vision, and core values of the school, embody high expectations for student learning, aligning with academic standards, and are culturally responsive. Align and focus systems of curriculum, instruction, and assessment within and across grade levels to promote student academic success, love of learning, the habits of learners, and healthy sense of self. Promote instructional practice that is consistent with knowledge of child learning and development, effective pedagogy, and the needs of each student. And to continue with that, ensure instructional practice that is intellectually challenging, authentic to student experiences, recognizing student strengths, and is differentiated and personalized. Promote the effective use of technology in the service of teaching and learning. Employ valid assessments that are consistent with knowledge of child learning and development and technical standards of measurement. Use assessment data appropriately and within technical limitations to monitor student progress and improve instruction. And then I added, as part of the North Carolina Digital Learning Competencies, number 2, it aligns with the content and instruction. All right, so what does that mean for my school? My school that I am working with is Kynard Elementary School in Clover School District. It is a Title I school with 409 students. They are a Leader in Me Lighthouse school. And then I broke down some of the demographics of my school. Before the new principal came, there were some struggles with academic achievement. And so the state did come in a couple of years ago and required all of the teachers to be letters trained. So now they are in their second, I think they just finished their second year of being letters trained for all certified staff, which also improved their instruction. All right, so why is the standard important? And I wrote that the principal is the curriculum leader, ensuring quality curriculum is delivered to achieve academic excellence. And I was at a training for the State Department a couple months ago, and I won a raffle called The Principal as the Instructional Leader. And in that book, it said to serve as effective leaders of curriculum, school administrators need to have more than a passing knowledge of curriculum and understand the importance of their role in this area. I started thinking about what we have learned in our evidences, especially with building a master schedule. And so I wanted to talk about how the principal must ensure that the master schedule maximizes instructional time and reflects curricular priorities, which leads us to a major strength of my school. And how this looks at Kynard Elementary is by having an intentional master schedule. And so I included the master schedule for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and how you can see the times are broken down by instruction and how much time instruction, and then the total amount of the instruction that meets with the policies and the guidelines for how much instructional time needs to be delivered. And then another role as a principal of being an instructional leader is having strong intervention implementation. So as part of the master schedule, my school has developed interventions. So we have a reading coach, a math coach, we have reading interventionists, we have behavior specialists, reading coaches, math coaches, as well as assistant support. And so I included that these are all of the interventionists and their schedule daily, and what they do. They pull kids into their groups, but they also push into classrooms. So the teachers have a coach, an instructional coach, to model that instruction and to help with small groups or anything that they need to help with delivering that instructional content in their classrooms. It is very meticulously planned out before the school year starts every year. And so that is a strength of our school. And because of those strengths, it shows with the data from the South Carolina report card, with the scores of the SC Ready, how they continue to increase. So the blue is Kynard Elementary, the orange is the district, and green is the state. And Kynard Elementary School is performing greater than the state in the areas of English language arts. I also wanted to include from the South Carolina report card, factors of school climate, where the teachers' perceptions of instructional focus was higher than both the district and the state. So the principal, as the instructional leader, has led the teachers to perceive the instructional climate at Kynard as being highly effective. And then I wanted to include results of my walkthrough assessments as one of the evidences that we had where we were required to do walkthrough assessments. So as part of the South Carolina 4.0 rubric, whenever I went into the classrooms, I was assessing teachers on those standards from the SC lead, and 40% of teachers showed that they had a strength in presenting instructional content, which I wanted to include as a strength of the school. All right, some weaknesses that I see in my school based on everything that I've learned so far from one of our evidences where we asked teachers if they play a role in setting school-wide curricular policy. The answer was no for 55% of the teachers, and yes for 45%. Our curriculum adoptions come from the district level, so teachers don't have a good role in setting the school-wide curricular policy, which I feel like needs some room for growth because not all schools in our district are equal. We have we have 3 Title I elementary schools and 4 non-Title I elementary schools. So to be at that district level making the decisions, I feel like we have some growth in that area in our district. And then I wanted to point out our SC Ready scores in ELA and math. And as you can see, in 3rd grade, our 3rd grade team are rock stars. They had a 25% increase from 2022 to 2023. But then if you look down from 3rd grade to 4th grade, their score, and then 4th grade to 5th grade, they decline every year from 3rd grade. And that is in both ELA and in math. And so it looks like there needs to be some type of plan in looking at why those scores are decreasing from 3rd to 5th grade. And you can see that they also decreased in math. Every year they decrease. So I want to look into that more and figure out what we can do so that there's not such a great decline from those grades. Also, iReady assessment in math. If you look at each grade level, the final diagnostic is at the top, and there's also room to grow in iReady, looking at tier 1 instruction, needing to be at that 85% level, and they didn't quite meet it in math for every grade level. And as you can see, the tier 1 scores in each grade from 1st grade, they continue to decline as you go up in grade. So really looking into what the cause of that is instructionally would be a good idea for our school. All right, and Dr. Stedman knows this, but I had an interview for an assistant principal position. It went okay, and I asked for feedback today from the principal, and I said, here are some things that I noticed from the interview reflecting back. Do you have any feedback for me? And he said, yes, I wanted to know what kind of instructional leader you were going to be. I wanted to know what you knew about MTSS. what you knew about personalized learning, what you needed to know about our new curriculum. And I said, that's fair. You know, in that 30-minute interview, I didn't say those things, even though I did those, but I wanted to include that I was part of personalized learning with our district, and I did help develop I was on the task force to purchase our new curriculum for ELA. And I thought, gosh, that was such a missed opportunity because I did those things. I just didn't communicate it in the interview. So I wanted to just take a slide to say, knowledge of curriculum and instruction is extremely important, and to familiarize yourself with the MTSS, personalized learning, or anything else your district is doing for instruction. So overall rating of my school, historically, Kynard Elementary has continued to increase academically based on iReady Diagnostic and the South Carolina or the SC Ready. The room for improvement would be looking at data in 3rd through 5th grade to identify why students are declining with each grade. And that was everything I wanted to say. Is there any questions or comments?
First of all, again, great job, and thank you for your transparency. I appreciate you sharing that. Julie and I talked at length about her interview, and I'm glad that you followed through with that, Julie, and because I think it'll be a growth experience for you as you move forward.
Right.
And I will tell any of you, don't undersell yourself when you go into these interviews. I've done hundreds of interviews over the years, and you know, he's right. I want to know these things about you. I've got to know, you know, because, and if you don't tell me, you know, I'm not going to know. So it's your time to you know, your time to shine. You said something about, you know, when we traveled a lot with as coaches, we initially, before COVID, we traveled everywhere. And because I live on the East Coast and I'm the last county before you go into South Carolina, I'm near, you know, I'm right at Dillon County, you know, so not or Dillon and Florence County. So I was very familiar. I'm very familiar with the school districts there because I have visited multiple districts in South Carolina. And I will tell you, you're right. You can go to, I have visited schools and you were thought that you were at the Taj Mahal. And then you ride 20 minutes down the road and you can't believe what you're seeing. So, and it's no different in North Carolina, but I saw a lot in the rural part of South Carolina. You got the have and the have-nots. I mean, and you know what I'm talking about, South Carolina people. You've seen it. You know what I'm. So you know we have to be aware of that because as leaders, and as aspiring administrators, for most of you, guess where your first assignments are going to be? Probably in a lot of the have-not areas. And you've got to embrace that. And I really respect the fact that Stacy brought a lot of this out, having been homeschooled and being basically emerged into these kinds of environments. You know, you just don't know what you're going to be dealing with and what you're going to facing, but you've got to be willing to take it, to embrace it, make it your own, and to, you know, you got to love them where they are, and you know, be willing to begin moving that pendulum for them. So have the heart for it, and Julie, you're gonna find one of those schools and you're gonna make a difference. I promise you that. But again, ladies, both of you, great jobs. I jotted some things down that you said too that I need to remind myself of some of the trainings and things like that. I need to remind myself of, so I can be more aware of, when y'all talk about it, I can be more aware of exactly what you're talking about. So I'm going to do some research on the side of this as well. But again, I hope y'all are learning from these experiences. They're very eye-opening, and the transparencies that you're sharing with your schools and your districts, that's important. That you're learning some things, and then we can actually see some things where we are based on the things that you're sharing as well. But great jobs. And Malika, I know that you're gonna wow us next week. I know that already. But I will tell you, next week will not be as packed as the last 2 weeks has been. We only have the one presentation. We will spend some time talking about, our activity for the week, our assignment for the week. We'll talk some about that, the behavior continuum, and then I don't know. Dr. Bullis may be back and want to spend a few minutes with you, but it will not be as big, and that'll give you some time to come off and do some work, or maybe do some planning. You may decide after that meeting, it's a good time while we're in the mode, Zoom with your teams and go ahead and get some things accomplished that way. You figure out what you need to do. But anyway, I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I thank you for your attentiveness. I saw some things tonight that I needed to see, and I appreciate that. Thank you for that. And what I said at the beginning, please know that it's from my heart, and I want you to do well. And I'm pushing you so that you can finish well. What you've started and the hard work that you've done. I want it to be well at the end. I want to be able to say a job well done with all of you. So, anything in closing that anybody would like to share? We're right on target, because I said about an hour and a half, and we're right on target. Okay, I will see you guys next Wednesday. I'll be at the beach next Wednesday whenever we have class. I'm going on vacation for a few days. It's my anniversary next week, so we're going to go and spend a little bit of time at the beach. So,
Well,
anyway.
happy early anniversary and enjoy.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and y'all have a good rest of your week. And reach out to me if you need me. Okay.
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 Good
Okay,
night.
bye-bye. Good night. Bye-bye.